This is actually so good, honestly, and I love that I get
it's
to
like
do
therapeutic.
this. Yeah, exactly. And it's self-reflective as well. You know, sometimes you don't ask yourself these questions, so being asked makes you think about it. So.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hey, Trace.
This is awkward because they're very good friends of mine, so we're kind of trying to be informative here for everybody else. So I'm going to ask questions. I sometimes know the answer, but I kind of want you guys to be as candid and straightforward as possible. The idea behind this whole thing, and as you know, I've been wanting to do this for a while, is I started this show, What They Don't Tell Us. Because there's a lot of things people don't tell us, right? They don't tell us back in school. They don't tell us while they're in the business, when they're successful. We see them from the outside, but we don't really know how they got there. And it would be really useful to a lot of people and myself to kind of understand from different people who have reached certain heights to give insight into how they got there in the first place. What strategies they used, what they did wrong, what they did right? So that could be so useful to my audience, and I would love for you guys to be as straightforward and candid as possible, okay? So, I mean, there's no need for an introduction for both Luch and Karen, but they're both very successful within their own right. Luch in his old business, and currently now how he works with Karen. And Karen, I mean, obviously one of the biggest names in social media, has a huge global footprint as well, not just in the region. So there's a lot to learn from both of you and your business partners. So it's so important to kind of see how you brought all of this to life. I want to start by asking when Luch stepped in. When did he kind of first start as a support when social media was vague to everybody and he was doing his thing and you just started on social? How did he step in? When and in what capacity did you kind of step in to help with social to start with?
You want it from his perspective or my perspective?
Both of you. Like, how did you start by telling me?
I think from my perspective, even before social media, I used to like help out. Mm-hmm. Because before she always used to like taking pictures. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if it's call it a hobby or something she really liked to do. So we used to travel a lot when we were long distancing. Yeah. And she used to live in London, so we used to go to London, and from London it used to be like a hub of our destinations. So we used to travel to like Rome, Paris, Barcelona, and we used to always go walk around with a tripod. Mm-hmm. So imagine before even like social media and all that, we used to like set up a tripod with like a proper camera, photography.
Yeah, there were no iPhones at the time.
There were no iPhones, I know. It was like, there were iPhones, but without like a clear camera. So we used to set up a tripod and then take pictures on timer of me and her, and she used to come back and make books as a memory. So I think my support started before even social media, just me having the patience to doing that, because trust me, we're like one of the few people on the streets of, like, let's say Barcelona, having a tripod and in the middle of a crowd taking pictures. So,
and that's cool, because I mean, I feel with a lot of people, their partner that's not really into it would just be like, come on, I don't want to take another photo, even when they're tourists and traveling. So to kind of have that support that when Luch stepped in. But when did it become, for you, when did you start feeling like it was a business, Karen, and it wasn't anymore just fun, putting photos on social media for fun? And was it automatically something that Luch said, you know what, let me help you with this, or kind of like, you do your own thing, I'm just going to continue to do my work?
I have to say the first time I kind of felt it was getting a little bit serious was, I would say, even before I had a first request with a financial reward coming out of it. Mm. So I started taking this seriously when I started to feel that my audience was growing, that I was getting people who didn't know me personally to be interested in, you know, my photos or my life, and asking more questions about where I was or what I was wearing, or, you know, at the time this was kind of more of my focus. It was really just to show a little bit of my life. And when I started to feel that my audience was growing, I started to feel that there is interest, I felt, okay, this is something serious. But that was all before a brand ever got in touch. And when a brand did get in touch, I mean, personally, I didn't even know that this was something, a business, even across the world, not just in our region. You know, I didn't know how something like that would work. Like, why would someone pay you for photos? I didn't get it. Mm. But when a brand reached out, I remember being super excited. At the time, I mean, we already had 3 children, and Dubai is an expensive city. And I kind of always felt that all the pressure, financially at least, was on Luch, and I wanted to really help out. And And also, it kind of made me feel that what I was doing wasn't a waste of time, if you want. So something is coming back, not just a satisfaction. Yeah, and not just a personal satisfaction to me, but actually something that I'm bringing into the family as well. So at that point, I remember being super excited. I knew how excited and happy Luch would be for me. So obviously, he's the first person I called up. And I told him, I just got like a really cool email and they actually want to pay me for something that I love to do, which is, I think, a blessing, because it's not everyone who finds so much pleasure in what you do. So he was super supportive, to be honest, from the beginning. And I think one thing I want to add, which is not just Luch's support in terms of the patience that he had, but unfortunately we live in a society and almost maybe a culture where there are certain expectations from a man, and that does not fall under a man's expectations to kind of pose with his wife or stop whatever he's doing to, take a photo, because like he said, it's not everybody who loves it. And I would say, I don't think he loved it. He was doing it because it made me happy. So I think that was also something that is worth pointing out, which is him having to kind of stand up against his friends or society and be like, yeah, I'm cool with that, and it's not everyone who does that.
I kind of wanted to touch on that too. So obviously, we're in the Arab world, so a lot of what you're talking about is not a standard practice of partnership, right? So, Luch, you were one of the first to kind of take that on to say, you know what, I will stand behind my wife and support her when she wants to do these things. I will be in front of the camera and behind the camera, kind of helping. How did you move from dealing with that criticism or society backlash or the wrath from society to kind of say, I don't understand. How does Karen take on this role, and how is Luch taking on a support role, if that's what they want to call it, because they don't really know what role you're taking on, right? I know what you do behind the scenes for the eyewear brand and for the KE partners, your new venture together. But how have you overcome the society's backlash?
There wasn't like backlash from society. It was more backlash from friends. And it wasn't like the backlash. It was more backlash of like banter. You know how guys are. We're in a group, a WhatsApp. So they'd post a picture, which I was with Karen, and they'd make fun of me a bit. Yeah. And haha, he. Everyone would laugh and make fun, But
look who's laughing now.
Sooner or later, like when you start growing, you see there's actually like a purpose, and then quietly, those people who used to make fun of you start saying, like, bravo, look what they've accomplished actually from like something so simple and which we thought was silly at the beginning, but now look where they are. And trust me, no one is like making fun anymore.
Like, of course.
You know what I mean? So that's like kind of the opposite of where we started. Where we started, any picture I'd put, they'd make fun, and sometimes I'd make fun of myself. Don't get me wrong, I do like a good joke once in a while. And then slowly you'd see as you start growing and you start getting more, let's say, validation and everyone and success, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, there's really no point making fun, because if we make fun, we look stupid.
Exactly.
So
they say that revenge, the best revenge, that we're saying revenge, I know it's all banter at the beginning, but the best version of revenge is success. So even though you heard the banter and there was year after year of you kind of second guessing, maybe you worked quietly, and then look where you guys are now, right?
But to be honest, I think it affected me more than him. I used to get bothered because obviously, I think maybe he would think the same, but if someone I'm better off with someone bothering me because I feel I can handle it, but I wouldn't want anyone to bother him because I would not know how he will handle it and if it will affect him or not. Or maybe it does, but he doesn't want to tell me that it is. So I remember it bothering me more than him. He would tell me, like, baby, it's fine. They were just guys laughing. And I would be like, but why are they laughing? Like, what's funny?
We're childhood friends, so...
He would see it more from...
trust me, we've done worse than make fun of each other on pictures and stuff like that. So I took it lightly,
Okay, so what worked and what didn't work? So I'm pretty sure that, as they say, all entrepreneurs need to figure it out. And then on your own, you kind of notice what kind of worked and what didn't. When did you realize that something was working? What was it, a kind of strategy that you used and you stuck with it? And what have you tried that maybe you thought, you know what, this doesn't work, right? Not only in business ventures to start, but as a strategy in general.
I'll tell you one thing. Luch and I were in a long distance relationship for 3 years. And for people who know or have been through long distance relationships, they're not easy. But the way to overcome it, or the way to kind of have a successful long distance relationship, is to have common goals, to have the same vision. And that for me is something that I see very much in common with the way we see our lives today and our businesses. So I think what really what makes us succeed together is that we do have the same goals. And then how each one goes about to get it, we might sometimes not agree on it. We might have different ways of dealing with it, but we definitely have the same kind of values and the same ambition, maybe not ambition, but the same goal. You know, he might have that, like I said, like he might think, okay, to get there, this is how we need to do it. And I would be like, no, to get there, I need to do this. And then we kind of, you know, sometimes I try my way, it fails. Sometimes his way fails. And then, you know, sometimes we convince each other before we even try. But I would definitely say having the same end goal is something that's absolutely been very, very good for us.
So on that, you said he has a kind of vision to say, to get there, this is what I think works.
Yeah.
And you have another vision. What are those visions? Like, what are those steps that you kind of feel? Give me an example.
Yeah, I'll
like,
tell you.
For instance, you have the eyewear brand, let's say. And when you first started the eyewear brand, what role did you play in creating this brand, and what was your role? And how did you kind of feel like it was the right strategy to develop it? And what was your version of it? Maybe it's the same one.
Can I talk?
Go ahead.
I feel like I'm not going to give him a lot of time. No, I just want to say, before we jump into the eyewear, when it comes to kind of different visions, you have to know a little bit of context of our characters. So I have never worked in a corporate world. So I don't actually know or have any foundation that teaches me strategy or teaches me organizational, you know, like steps or a standard way of doing things. I'm very emotionally connected to my work, whereas Luch is a lot more kind of objective about the way he sees things. And I'm more, I would say, a bit creative, and he's more driven in a more maybe more steps oriented. So for him, things are very simple. For him, it's like 1 + 1 = 2. For me, it doesn't work that way. So I get to learn a lot from him. He learns, I would like to think that he also learns a little bit from the way I do things. But we are very, very different in our thought process, extremely different. And a lot of times I failed because I have to say that the fact that I did not have a foundation was tricky. I had to build a foundation that works for me. For example, I don't know how to work within a certain time frame. I'm the kind of person, I'm not organized. It's a struggle for me to be organized. Luch is extremely organized. I don't know if this is maybe because of how long you've worked in a corporation, or it's even part of his character. I don't know how he was before, because I met him, he was already working, so I know him exactly like that. So for him, his steps are very easy. For me, it's like, I get excited. Okay, this is what I want to do. I feel this is the right thing to do. Luch, I'm thinking of doing it. He always tells me, calm down. Don't do anything before thinking about it. Always. And I'm like, but I know it. And I come to him with passion. Like, Luch, I feel it. This is exactly what we need to do. And then, you know, sometimes he just lets me, or sometimes I just do it, you know, without even, and he tells me, like, I told you. Exactly. But sometimes it works as well. I don't think there's a one way of doing things, you know, and I think this is what's beautiful, that it's, especially in the world we see today, a lot of the jobs that existed, they didn't exist before, and if people didn't take risks and did things differently, these jobs probably wouldn't have been there as well. So I think it's important to try.
Something that I admire a lot in what you both do is you've used social media to your advantage to become owners of different businesses or investors. What I admire in your perspective, Karen, is that you had the social media to start, and then you're like, okay, how am I going to create a business out of social? Yeah. And you're kind of steering away, at least in my eyes, from social media influencer, more becoming a businesswoman. Yeah. And then you still do your social media stuff. Luch, something that you did, which I think is probably even more difficult than what Karen did, is you had this corporate structure that you're very comfortable with. You were very senior in your position as an investment banker. And then you figured out how to use your skills there and create a business that works for you. Not just maybe open an eyewear brand that's irrelevant to what you do, but everything that you do behind the scenes is thanks to your old job. Everything that you're doing in KE Partners now, it speaks Luch pretty much. So that is not an easy decision to make. How did you guys kind of figure out that this is going to be the step I'm going to take? When was it a comfortable step, and what role did you play in creating all of that?
I think I've been 18 years in the corporate world. When you don't learn anything new. So it's been like the past 5-6 years, I've been doing the same thing over and over again, every day, same routine. I used to be like, let's say, stockbroker. Every day, the same stocks, nothing new coming around. So it just felt lethargic and everything was happening like Groundhog Day. So I thought, you know what, I don't want to wake up. I don't want to wake up 20 years down the line and have regret. You know, there's a saying, let me see if I can remember it, but there's a saying, it says, there's a high price of winning, but the cost of regret is generational. You know, so I believe in that. I believe that I don't want to wake up 20 years down the line and say, you know what, why didn't I take that risk? So don't think it was just a risk whereby I'm like, I'm leaving. No, it was a calculated risk, you know, like I know I have 3 kids. I do need to plan ahead. So like me wanting to leave was like maybe a 3-year path down the line, you know. I tried to reduce my costs as much as possible, not have hanging overhead costs like mortgages, car loans, etc. I tried to close as much as I can, knowing that when I leave, my monthly costs would not be so exaggerated. We started the company, the eyewear brand. We wanted something which really represented Karen, and Karen, you know, she has her eyes.
Karen has eyes.
She has her big eyes with people, which really how it came, because from the insecurity of her eyes, we're like, what can we create which kind of is a part of Karen, which was her eyewear. Yeah. So we started the eyewear, and I didn't start the eyewear and I left my job. It was, we started the eyewear, and then maybe a year and a half, 2 years after, that's when I really took the decision to leave my job. So it was kind of like I was working kind of like twice, you know, so I'd got my job, I'd finish my job, and then at night I would probably look after the eyewear. I had some help, of course, but I mean, what I would say is that don't think that things happen without planning, and that I want to take this risk and just leave without a really backup plan. And everything takes time. I mean, if you want to leave your job today, you need at least 2 years to plan ahead of time, so you don't leave and then you're like, wow, what did I do? This was the biggest regret of my life. So I think that's the most important thing is to plan ahead a time, reduce your costs so you don't feel there's a big financial burden every month coming in. So have your salary, as much as you can, save from that salary, reduce your cost so that your income, you don't feel like you're getting drained every month. And then on the back end, work on trying to grow something, and everything's going to take time. You know, you hear everyone, in 1 year he grew his company and now it's worth $35 million. Trust me, those are very, very, very rare.
And also we know that a lot of that stuff is not even true, right? We read stuff that are written about you guys and you're like, okay, this is not true, right? So you kind of know that it's not necessarily true. That's
my net worth, according to Google, is something like 70 million.
I heard that. I saw that with you, actually. We laughed about it. It's true. I mean, it's not everything you read. And this is another reason why I wanted to touch on what you just said, that the eyewear brand, as an example, I mean, do you necessarily think, people would probably think, okay, oh yeah, I'm sure Karen's eyewear brand blew up the first 2 months. How long did it really take for your eyewear brand to kind of really see profit, as opposed to breaking even, as opposed to kind of learning?
We're still like, listen, we make profit, but everything we make, we reinvest it, you know, into the company. So especially in the eyewear brand, you have good margins, and accessories, you have good margins. So you have like a healthy balance sheet. But whatever you do, you have to always keep on reinvesting, and opening new markets. So like now we have a good stronghold in the GCC area and the MENA, including Egypt. But our real target is to grow in the US, to grow in Europe, to grow in, let's say, Asia further down the line. And all that needs investment because you're like 1 in a million people who have, let's say, a company who sells eyeglasses, who sells eyewear in the US. How are you going to stand out? You need to hire, let's say, stylists. You need to get in with the right people. You need to be in showrooms, and all that it costs money. You know, you need to hire staff. You need to differentiate yourself. So
marketing costs.
So we were profitable, and thanks to Karen's platform, we were profitable. But all the profits you make, you always have to reinvest in your company, which isn't bad because you're making profit. You're reinvesting it, you're growing your company, the worth of your company is growing as well.
But Karen, how much do you think, do you believe that because of your platform, so to speak, everything you touch turns to gold? Because you have 7 million plus, then you're privileged, you have an edge. Now, granted, you work to get to your 7 million, but now you have 7.
But no, I wouldn't say that that's the case at all. Okay. I think it
helps. She has more than 7, by the way.
7.6?
No, she has 13 million across
other platforms.
Because other platforms make a difference. Like TikTok is very influential. I don't know, a lot of brands blow up on TikTok now. You have Snapchat, which in the MENA region and specifically the GCC, UAE, Saudi, Kuwait, Qatar, they use it a lot. So you can't just negate the other social media platforms and just talk about Instagram.
But I would say that I don't agree with that at all. I wish that was the case. I think it's a combination of elements. So first of all, yes, it's important to have the reach, okay? And I have that, thankfully. But then someone can try the product once, not like it, never order from you again, and not just that, tell other people not to order from them again. So we're not only talking about one person. And we know today with social media, news travels really, really fast. So if someone had a bad experience, they can post about it and not, and that will spread much faster. So it is not as simple as, so because she has followers, she has a successful business. Absolutely not. There's a lot of work.
Followers will get you a one-time transaction.
Awareness.
No, it'll get you a one-time transaction.
And not even 100%.
And not 100%, of course. There's like conversion, but like you'll get a one-time buyer. If the product isn't good, they won't be a repeat customer. Your whole business is based on repeat customers and growing the repeat customers, growing exposure, etc. So if you don't have a good product, no one's going to come back. And how many times have you ever gone up to someone, one of your friends, and say, by the way, I had an amazing experience in XYZ. It's usually people are prone to always talk about the negative before the positive. Like, by the way, yesterday I had a horrible experience at 1234. So people resonate more with the negative is more, let's say, it echoes louder than the positive. So you always have to make sure that your product is good, your experience is good, your customer service is good, just to make sure that everyone's
And I will
happy.
tell you, Tracy, you know what you can compare this to? And we've had these conversations before. So I have a number of followers on my Instagram. Sometimes I tag people and they call me back and tell me, Karen, what the hell? You just posted us and you just posted me or a brand and it just blew up and it grew. And then other people, I would see that it didn't really, make any sort of difference on them. So it also depends on the other, on the person, so it's not just about raising the awareness. That's not enough. I can raise awareness on your profile. If people come in and are not interested with what they see, then they're not going to follow, then they're not going to buy. Whereas if you post someone or something that people come in and be like, okay, that's interesting. They have done their job in, making their profiles or their businesses stand out, it will resonate. You know what I mean? So I think it has to do with the product and the business and the platform as well as much, more, I would even say, than just the awareness
I agree.
That's
her job is to create awareness.
Yeah.
But then it's up to the brand to have a good product.
Or something appealing, at least to get them, wanting it.
Definitely.
Exactly.
And I would say, just another thing is that even when it comes to my social media, some people might think, maybe including you, I don't know if you've ever even spoken about this or not, Karen has 7 million followers. But don't think for 1 second of the day that I think that I have these 7 million followers at all. It's a number on Instagram. Everything has to do with how you engage with them, what you give them, you can have 7 million followers that are still following you, but have forgotten about you completely. They will not engage with you. You will not even cross their mind during the day. So that is a super important thing, to keep your audience interested in you, to keep giving them as well what they want, to pick out what is it that my audience likes, what is it that they engage with more. Let me give them more of that. This is what they like. And then, it's not always a simple thing. I struggle with this a lot. I sometimes see a fluctuation in my engagement, which I'm not going to lie and tell you doesn't affect me, because it does. And it makes me feel very insecure. I sometimes feel, am I irrelevant? Was I doing things better? Why was my engagement better before? And then even if people say, yeah, but this is how it is across, I don't care. I don't want to be a part of this across. There are exceptions. I want to be the exception. What is it that I am doing that I could do better? So it is constantly work in itself just to maintain an interested audience before you even start wanting to divert them to other businesses.
What you're doing, and what you do pretty well, Karen, is you listen to your audience. You're not using your platform just to talk, which a lot of people do. They want to hear their voice on their platform. What you do well, and you just pointed it out, is that you kind of want to see what do they want to see, what are they interested in, and a lot of your growth is because you really listen to what they want, and then you work accordingly. You rebranded and re-strategized yourself in many different aspects, right? You started off as an influencer, then you were just a mom, the mom influencer, then you went to fashion, and then you went to business, and it's pretty interesting. And something that I think is a big takeaway with you, Luch, is that like anything in the world, if you want to do something right, you need to understand what you're doing, and you need to understand the business. And you took the time, even with everything on your plate, to kind of learn about social media, learn about the different platforms, learn about fashion even, for God's sake, because you know that this is part of your business. So you're very well-rounded. We sit and talk sometimes, and you know much more than I do in many regards.
He subscribes to like new fashion news that I don't even know. So he would come and tell me information about brands that have acquired each other, or whatever it is, or even articles. I see him reading articles on TikTok, and I think it's amazing, because I maybe don't have the time to do it, or have less interest in that, whereas I would spend more time doing research on, okay, what are the new trends? What can I do there? What can I, and whereas he would see more of the business side of things. And then he gives me a lot of information that is very beneficial to me as well, to our business, but also to me as Karen on social media. So it's Can
I just talk about the rebranding, what you said? I think the rebranding also, to be successful in this business, you got to be genuine. So you said that, Karen, you're an influencer, and then a mom influencer, and then business. I think it's just normal trajectory of her life. So I don't think it was like a rebranding like exercise, more to say. I think it was more like when Instagram really happened was maybe, or when she started growing was around the period when she got pregnant.
Correct.
All right, so she got pregnant, and then obviously this is her daily life is going to be regarding the pregnancy, and then she gave birth, and then we got pregnant really quickly after. So for like, let's say 2.5, 3 years, we were in that whole kids, pregnancy mode, etc. Once we gave birth and we had, like, let's say we settled in a bit with our kids grew up a bit. Karen, I think even when she was a kid, she always loved fashion. So I think she reverted back to fashion as like her natural journey in life, not more of a, I need to rebrand myself. And I think that's where you're successful, when you don't have to put so much effort in terms of your trajectory, where you like this thing, she follows it, and she feel like she does it from the heart, not like it's a fake exercise because I want to rebrand myself so other people can see me for someone I'm not, you know?
Yeah. You're not trying to put on boots that don't fit. You're kind of like, okay, but this is who I really am, and then you show more of that.
I think the entrepreneurship part is where kind of I have the influence on her and I help her on. So
and it's not just influence in terms of it's emotionally, I needed to believe, because unfortunately they make you think that influencers are stupid, that they don't have anything to offer. They put you in this category that all you do is take photos, and then you don't add value beyond that. And then I had someone like him who to me is a very smart person and who hangs out with a lot of people from the corporate world, you know, as part of what he used to do. And he would come back to me and tell me, Karen, you are a lot smarter than all of these people that I go and have lunch with every single day. Don't think for a second that they can do something that you can't. So I had this really strong support, morale support from him, which made me build confidence in myself to think that, you know what, actually, I can. Like, no one's better than me. I used to be afraid of titles like Forbes and titles like entrepreneur. And like, I can't sit with these people. I can't have an interview with them. I don't know the technical terms. I don't fit in because they make you believe that you don't fit in and you're a girl. So
you'll be surprised how deceiving titles are in the corporate world. Like,
I'm not surprised at all.
I don't know what, like senior manager.
You know,
you go, you speak to them, you're like, how did this guy get there?
I know that all too well with the fact that I also used to be in corporate, and maybe back in that time and in my age back then, I had a lot of respect for titles. When I left and I realized what entrepreneurship looks like, and then I went back to that and I met certain people from chairmen and CEOs from my old life, I'd sit with them and I'm just sitting across thinking, really?
Oh, I'm not impressed.
Really? Seriously, that's chairman. That's what CEO looks like. So it's really true. When you build your own version of confidence, you kind of notice that these titles mean nothing really. What you
you can be a bit of both. You can sit at a table and have a great conversation, but you can also do silly dances with your kids. One doesn't negate the other.
Yeah.
Why is there just a certain way of portraying yourself? Because I'm pretty sure that even, you know, those big CEOs, they have silly sides to them as well. They have lazy sides to them as well. It's impossible for you not to. We're all human at the end of the day. I choose to show that side, but that doesn't make me who I am fully, you know?
Do you think you need to be, at this day and age, a human influence on social media, like, so to speak, an influencer to grow a brand? Or can you grow your brand on its own without putting yourself in the public eye?
Absolutely. I think that today you don't need to be an influence. You don't need to be a person of influence either. It's nice if you have a story to tell, great. But today you have so many platforms that are there to help you. We don't know half of the businesses who's behind them. You have platforms and you have people to use. A lot of people aren't comfortable being in front of the camera or even doing interviews themselves. But they are building models behind the scenes where they are utilizing all the platforms to really create
reach,
not just reach, but that they're creating something new, you know, things that never even existed, and they were able to do that through other people. So I think it's absolutely not necessary for the person to be known. And then great person, you know, they come and they say, oh, this is, by the way, who the founder is of this brand, but it's not. I don't think it doesn't
come hand in hand.
No,
you don't need to show your personal life in order for you to kind of
think so.
grow even on social. You would think.
No, I agree.
Because I like social media and I love to connect with people and I love to be in front of the camera. So this is something I'm super comfortable with. So I would tell someone, like, why don't you just market yourself as well, you know? But it's not for everyone and it's not necessary either. I would just think it's nice because I'd be like, oh my God, if I can tell the story of that person's success, I would so want to be there on that platform. You know what I mean? But this is my experience of it. It's not everyone who likes it. I mean, even Luch, I think he's not a huge, like, Luch is when I first met him and even like throughout the time, I realized Luch is a very successful person. But Luch never spoke about his accomplishments. Luch doesn't have much articles on him because he's not that kind of guy. He's not a flaunty kind of guy. I am. I'm like, I did something. Oh, look what I did. You know, it's characters. It's maybe a little insecurity even from my side, which he is a lot more comfortable with. And he's just, you know, good with himself. He doesn't need any sort of exterior validation. I do. So it's just, you know, different. And I told him, I'm like, I can't believe that you don't have a lot of articles on you. Why don't you push for interviews? And he just doesn't see the benefit in it necessarily. I think, I don't know.
Just doesn't like appeal to me.
And
if it happens, it happens. But I mean, I'm not the guy who wants to show everyone what I've done.
Even you're very modest in your approach to life. I think that even when I first met him, and I mean, the banking world was very new to me. I was living in Lebanon. You don't really have those big corporations or finance, you know, organizations in Lebanon. So my entourage was not in that scene. And then I moved to London, and then obviously there you meet a lot of bankers. And then when I would tell them, let's say that, you know, my boyfriend is Luch, they'd be like, really? He's doing so well at HSBC? And I'm like, this guy doesn't talk to me the way people talk about him, you know? So I think it's true.
I'm not even talking about myself. Yeah. By the way, I am...
I am a big shot in the finance
so you
world.
better be happy.
Trust me, a lot of people do.
You better be happy, you're welcome.
No, but even you're modest in your lifestyle. Like, he's not a lavish lifestyle kind of guy at all. Yeah. And I think I'm not either. I mean, compared to, I think, our maybe peers in the industry, or we don't ever really feel that anything exterior will reflect on who we truly are, you know? Yeah. I think this is just a little bit from both of our upbringing as well. We're both very kind of...
Yeah.
Can I just interrupt, off the... What time is your... That's what I'm saying. What time is your thingy?
1:30.
Oh, 1:30. Okay, because it's 1.
Oh, already?
Yeah. It's 12. Okay, 1:30 is your thingy.
You see what I mean about how he's like always there with the... Karen, you have this now, because he knows I could forget.
Yeah.
I do.
I know. I put things in your calendar and then you miss it entirely. So I want to kind of understand how you got to the place, provided the fact that you mentioned you don't have a business background, you don't have your corporate background, right? So how did you build the confidence to play your moves? Because you play them well. And how do you deal with certain fears? How did you build that confidence? Where did it come from?
First, maybe it's worth noting that I have my master's in psychotherapy, and I did therapy for 2 years. And it was a super, super helpful exercise, even though I don't practice it today, like technically, but I do practice it a lot on myself. Because especially the field that I am in is breaks your confidence, whether you like it or not. No matter how confident you start off, something will come along the way where they'll make you feel like you're not good enough. Whether it's something as simple as where you're seated and during fashion week, or how you're treated at events, like, oh, you're not relevant right now, look at this person, she's more famous than you, and we're going to give that person the more attention. Or the way other people see you, she's worth my time, she's not worth my time. And you can really, really see it very clearly. And it hurts, and it takes a lot of growth for you to say, you know what, it is part of this industry, it has nothing to do with who I am as a person.
And self-coaching.
Yeah, and exactly. So that's process. You know, that is inevitable in any person. Anyone who thinks, you know, right now they're having their moment, amazing. There will come a time where that moment will drop, where you will lose confidence, where you will question yourself, where you will question your position and your purpose. And this is something that I constantly go through. The more you grow, actually, it doesn't get less. It actually gets more. Because in the beginning, you're so happy with everything. Oh my God, I'm invited to Fashion Week. This is awesome. I don't care where they see me. Then it's like, okay, I'm there, but why don't they care that I'm there? And then it's, you know, so
they seated me first row. Why am I second row this time, for instance?
So you have all of that kind of comes with it, which is probably silly to other people, but, you know, from the outside.
This is in your world, because it's very relevant to people in the corporate world as well, but they just benchmark it against their entourage, right? They were invited to a certain meeting. They were taken to a certain event in the corporate world, but then they weren't they weren't promoted, or they weren't, you know, somebody else was promoted ahead of them. So it's relevant. It's the same.
Absolutely. But what is harder is that it's public. So you get people's opinions when, you know, it's from the outside, and it's easy to compare. There are numbers in any other business. People don't really know the numbers. In ours, numbers are public. So it is a bit more out there, if you want. So my confidence actually comes a lot from you. So thank you. My friends, you, honestly. How many times do I call you feeling so insecure? Even if it's about the way I look, and I tell you, Trace, so many people are calling me fat. Am I fat? I need your help. So I think the good thing is that when you're feeling at a time where you are low, do and it's affecting you. So if you're at a time where you're feeling at a time where you feel low, dwelling on that isn't going to take you anywhere. Taking the steps you need to take to get yourself out of there is what will make the difference. And which is why, for example, when my weight or the way I looked got to me, I called you. I told you, Tracy, you know, it's not just about what I look like physically. I feel lazy. I feel like a bum. I'm sitting at home watching that hour pass when I say I don't have time to work out. But in fact, I just stayed and looked at my phone. I could have worked out in that time. And I needed to surround myself with people like you who'd be like, Karen, you can do this. Everyone will find the time. You will find the time. And don't feel guilty about taking that time off. You need that time for you to do whatever it takes to better yourself. So I think surrounding yourself with the right people is super important. That will tell you the things that you need, not just that you need to hear, that will better you. This is one, and remind you of your worth. Because the people that know you know that you're worthy. So they will remind you of your worth. The second thing is learning to ignore the things that are not useful for you. So you will get exposed to a lot of comments, not just physically comments, but noise. You need to know how to take in the noise that is important for your growth and ignore the noise that is just there to put you down, because that exists. So this is something super important also in gaining confidence. And also I have to say my growth. Today, I say that, you know what, I reached where I am today. I am worth what I've done. I am a successful person. I want to say I'm an entrepreneur because I do see what I have built. I'm allowed to say that I'm an entrepreneur. Who's going to tell me, no, you're not? Yes, you are. You don't fit. You don't. I feel it. I know what I'm putting in. So that growth as well has helped me in building that confidence. So it's a bunch of everything. But again, this is much easier said than actually practiced. So it is, that's where the therapy comes in. I do a lot of self-talk, self-reflection. Where am I today? Where do I want to reach? We do a lot of strategy together. Maybe when we first started, there was no strategy. It was kind of like, things are coming our way. Oh, this is fun. This is exciting. I'm so happy. Look at this, Luch. But now it's like, oh, wait, we're somewhere today. Do we want to stay where we are? No. We want to grow. What are the right steps that we need to take to grow? What should we decline that might look super exciting from the outside? But if we take that on, we won't be able to get to that. So what should we reject and feel confident about rejecting to be able to take on another project that will be more in line with our goals, you know?
So tell me a bit more about that in terms of like time management, strategy. What does it look like? Because you also have a family of 3 kids and you have work and you have travel and you have to post and be online and be present. And how much of your roles are split and what does your time management look like?
I think when I left the corporate world, I was more flexible. So I think the biggest asset you have in your life is your time. And I realized that after I left the corporate world. So when I was in the corporate world, I used to like be at the job at like 8:30, leave at like 6, work straight on my desk. Lunch breaks would be on my desk. But when I left, I felt that I can manage my time much better. And because Karen travels a lot, so now it's easier for me to step in and take on some responsibilities, for example, with the kids, responsibilities, let's say, for the house, responsibilities with anything which is pending. I can step in, which would also allow her to travel more and to probably execute the strategy or game plan, which previously maybe we wouldn't be able to because I wouldn't be as available. So that's, I think, one thing which was important is when I left, we were able to be much more flexible on our timing.
But also I have to say, Luch, that you're saying this like it's something so direct and simple, but it's not everyone who does that as well. So you are an excellent father. You spend a lot of time with the children. Honestly,
it's so true.
It's true.
I was actually just saying this to Wael yesterday after we came back from your kid's birthday. I'm like, one of the people that I admire so much as a parent, aside from everything you do with work, Luch, you're just an amazing dad. You're so present, so involved, and not because he has to, but because he just wants to be around when his kids are growing up. He wants to watch and be a part of it. Like the way he monitors them, I really appreciate that a lot.
And not just that, even with the house, he's a lot more hands-on on the house than I am. And maybe this is more of a role expected from the woman, I
think that comes also from my organization.
I was going to say,
from my organizational,
he has more structure and organization.
I'm much more structure than her in that. So I know how to get things done quickly and not pen that things
I kind of procrastinate more. Let's say I know that whatever we have to order stuff for the house, for example, I'd be like, I'll just do it later. Luch would be like, oh, we have to order stuff for the house. I'm going to order it now. So he gets stuff done much, much faster.
So another kind of thing I want you to think about a little bit is, what sort of influence do you think or you have on your following, or hope to have if you still haven't reached that? What is your influence on the younger generation, or even adults, like people around you?
In a very idealistic world, I would like to be the person that I didn't find to look up to when I was younger. So when I was a younger, girl, and whether it was at university or whatever it was, the people that I looked up to were very, very, very different to me in the way they looked, in how they led their lives, where they lived. So they felt very, very far away from me. And it was a little bit unfair not to find those role models. I mean, I could tell you my mom was my role model, but then again, that's my mom. It wasn't someone that I looked at and said, this is, look, if she can do it, I can do it, And I want to be that person. So for example, I always thought, and we used to have these conversations a lot, when I have children, I will not have a career, because you can't, because this is what we only see around us. You very rarely saw women from our region that excelled at what they were doing and were also moms. That wasn't, maybe globally that wasn't also promoted so often, but especially in our region. So when I saw with time that actually you don't have to choose between one or the other, you can do both. I wanted to highlight that to my younger audience and be like, you don't have to choose. You can have both. Yes, something's got to give. So maybe your social life, you're going to have to take time away from your social life. You will have to delegate more than you thought you could. So there are stuff that you will miss out on, inevitably, but you don't have to make a choice. You will be able with time to realize what's more important, what your priorities are. And that's only if you truly want it. Some people don't really care to work. It's not part of their calling. For me, it was. I always knew that I wanted to work. But did I know that I was as ambitious as I am today? No. I thought I would settle maybe for some job, but I didn't know that I would want to do more and more and not settle. Like I feel sometimes I need to hear from people to tell me like, you're doing amazing, because I'm constantly feeling like I'm not doing enough. I need to do more,
So they say that you kind of should follow the footsteps of someone who's done it before you in order for you to reach certain heights. It's best to follow someone who's failed and done it, and then follow the successes. Who do you look at, both of you, if you're kind of thinking of a long-term trajectory of where you want to be? Whose footsteps do you think match your vision?
Do you have someone in mind, or do you want
I've never thought about it.
Never thought about it.
I have someone, and it's nice because she happens to be a friend. So Chiara Ferrani, who is a friend of mine, and in fact, the fact that I know her makes this all so much nicer, because she is truly what she portrays herself to be. So sometimes you find people on social media, but then when you meet them, you're disappointed, and you're like, oh, I liked her, but then when I met her, it wasn't the case. But with her, it's actually the opposite. She proved to be exactly who she shows herself to be. But it's not just that. I think that she has a great management I relate to her because she has a family and also has a business. And I feel that she takes the right steps in her growth, and not maybe the right steps for her, but I relate to these steps. So I love the fact that I have someone like her who's kind of paving the way and showing me how much of a long path I still have to take, So she inspires me for sure. And
do you feel like there's more like a book or like a strategy that you kind of follow, maybe more so in your case, not a person, but is there something that kind of stuck where you're like, you know what, that's right, this is how it's done, and I'm kind of always reverting back to that in my mind?
You know what, everyone says follow your passion and you'll be successful. I do believe in that, but I also believe in that it doesn't always end up in a positive way. I mean, follow your passion, but make sure that it's kind of like a dreamy quote, like follow your passion. So I always think to myself is that make sure you always have, let's say, a backup plan. So follow your passion and have a corporate job. Don't quit your corporate job until your passion starts getting you income. There's a difference in it. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to quit and follow my passion. No, don't
If it doesn't
quit,
make you money,
because
how are you going to?
Let your day job finance your passion. And once you know that your passion is actually getting you some income and is growing, and you feel that, you know what, this is really what I want to do, then take the jump. So I read a lot of like inspirational quotes. I read a lot of stuff like that. And I do take snippets from some of them and I try to apply them because I do resonate to them. So when I left my corporate job, I was senior, I had 3 kids, living in Dubai also is pricey. So I took a risk, but it was a calculated risk, which I've been planning for 3 years. So I don't feel that you should just jump the gun without having something.
You're right about that with the passion thing, because you know, a lot of people say follow your passion, but sometimes your passion is your passion, and people don't care about it. Yeah. So you won't be able to monetize from it, and that should be okay for you to kind of test it to see, is this something that people want? And if they don't, then maybe not hold on to it too tight and move on to the next one. I know that you tried to shift business. You wanted to do a candle line, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So you've also been there where you kind of tried something and it didn't work, and tried another and it didn't work. Yeah. It's not necessarily, I like candles, so I'm going to sell candles and it's going to work.
And a lot of people don't give themselves the time to really know what their passion is. So again, there's like a quote, and I like to read a lot of quotes. There's a quote that says, you have no problem working a 9-to-5 job for someone else, but you won't give a couple of hours a day to work on yourself.
That's true.
You know, so if you're working 9 to 5 for somebody else and they're getting all the money, they're getting all the benefits, you can't give yourself 2 hours a day to really, let's say, maybe you already identified your passion and try to grow that passion into something, then that kind of is on you, not on anyone else, you know? You have the time to grow it. It's the way you manage it.
So, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you just for one thing before you get in. When you're also asking me about like purpose and what I tried to highlight with my platform, I also think that I tried to show, when I show the family kind of side to it, I really like to highlight Luch in it, because I think, yes, we have a problem with stereotyping women, but we also have a very big problem with stereotyping men and the role of men. So I make it a point to show, for example, Luch cooking at home. I make it a point to show how supportive he is, because I would like, for example, for my daughters to end up also with someone who supports them, because without his support, I wouldn't have been able to do, like he's saying, I wouldn't have been able to do half of the stuff that I do today. So I think it's important to kind of reflect on all those little things that I personally feel have been beneficial to me, and kind of put that out there as well. So I think my purpose is a little bit highlighting, like I said, the positive stuff that I have within me that I feel make me a better person, and put that out there to show that it exists.
So with, it's always what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Now we talk about this a lot, how a lot of the younger generation want to be famous before they want to have a talent.
And we see this with our children.
It's kind of a fear that you have as well, right? Where you're kind of projecting to everybody like, I'm famous, right? You're on Instagram, you have a following. But how do you kind of influence people to have a talent or a business and then figure out a way to be famous because of it, instead of having it the other way around? So my question is more towards, how would you like to be remembered as people, and what kind of influence would you like to leave behind as part of your fame?
It's a big one.
Take your time.
Yeah. No, I don't want to sound cheesy, but I also think that kindness is a very big thing. Before anything, I wouldn't, famous people come and go, and fame comes and goes within the life of, anyone. The ones that are remembered are the ones that have used what they, any platform that they build, whether it's not just famous people, whoever it is, to highlight and to show kindness to others, whether it's through giving time from yourself to others, whether it's, just to add positive kind of value. And today, I feel that kindness is kind of underlooked at. You don't focus so much on it. You kind of have, for example, the devil wears Prada. Again, I'm talking in my industry.
But even like the boss, the CEO,
yeah, you kind of have
who's
exactly. You have, there's almost some sort of like it's almost like a correlation that success comes with being full of yourself, being arrogant, walking in a room and everyone has to freeze. And I think of myself as the complete opposite of this. I want to walk into a room and have everyone smiling. I want people to remember that, you know what, this girl built stuff, grew, became famous, but has remained to be a kind person throughout it all. And this is hard to see today, you know? And I really hope that this can stay within me, and it not that I always, even when I pray at night, I pray that I don't want fame to get to my head, because I think this is when someone starts to lose.
What about you, Luch? What do you want to be remembered for?
I think I want to be remembered as someone who gives others a chance to maybe take risks. You know, I think there's such a taboo, especially in the Arab world, whereby you either have to have, like, let's say, a steady job, like a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, and especially when you're dealing with your parents, they're like, no, don't do that. Just now's not the right time. And no one's gonna know when is the right time except yourself. You know, when you feel you're ready, do what you feel is ready. But my is always give it time before you react, which a lot of people nowadays don't do. A lot of, like you said, the young kids now, everyone wants to succeed, but no one wants to put the time to succeed. Just because I think social media amplifies everything, whereby
it makes it seem like it's easy.
Makes it seem like it's easy. Like someone did this, cryptocurrency. My friend invested $5,000 and now he has $1 million. And everyone thinks it's the same, but no one knows that it takes a lot of guts, takes a lot of patience.
A lot of research, a lot of learning.
Learning. Even my kids think that, like, I already know. I'm like, dude, you're 7 years old. What do you know? What do you know?
Even the fame, I think I'm concerned a little bit, and I would really like to think that it's not because of us kind of being in the public eye that my children talk about, being famous, because I kind of see it across their generation.
All the kids are like that. Like anyways, like the statistic, like I think more than like 50% of the young kids want to be YouTubers or influencers.
Or they even care about what their avatar looks like more than what they
70% of people care more what their avatar looks like than what they look like in real life.
So I'm 100% sure that this is a kind of a common thing across a majority, I would say, of young children, but I would absolutely not want that to be a goal for them. So I always, every time they tell me I want to be famous, I say that's great. Being famous could be a nice thing if this is what you want, but you're going to be famous for what? I'm constantly trying to put that in them, because fame does not come just like that. You need to be famous for something, and then you can also be famous for something that's not good. Fame is being known.
Fame is both ways. I think it's evolving also. Like she was talking about like men cooking, but like now you see more and more men cook. You see more and more men in the kitchen, because I don't know, like I love my food. So Karen doesn't know how to cook as well. So I don't know if that helped.
You're welcome.
I don't know if that helped.
He's so good.
But I think you see more chefs globally are men, and I think in the region you see more men who like to cook. And also taking care of kids. I think who doesn't want to see their kids grow up? You know what I mean?
I love that. I love that. That's it. Why are you doing it? Because you care to be around, not because this is not my job. It's not your job to be around for your kids. How is that possible? It's not It's not your job to.
And we didn't really see that growing up, I would say.
Exactly.
You could count on at least for example, from my friends or myself, I could count on one hand the fathers that I truly saw involved in their children's lives.
Yeah.
I think this has definitely changed.
One thing I liked about this discussion with you guys is, Karen. I mean, a lesson from both of you, Karen. How you used a lot of your skill set and the things you kind of picked up here and there from your degree and from your personality to figure out how you could use those and create a business that works. And Luch, you did the same. One is your passion to be able to help others to kind of feel like they can do it. So KE Partners is kind of that, right? And it has all of the knowledge and the skills and the background that you used in corporate. So for anyone who thinks that, yeah, but this is not my life, or this is not my role, or I'm stuck into this box, not necessarily. Just figure out in a creative way how to kind of use your skill sets to
and give yourself the time.
Give yourself the time.
You know,
we almost feel like we're in a race, you know, that everyone wants everything now. It's not how it works.
Yeah, I mean, we're all in our 30s, end of 30s, 40s, and this is where we are, and we're still figuring things out, right? So anyone who's 20 and 25 that says that I haven't figured my life out, relax. Okay? Guys,
thanks, this was actually so good, honestly, and I love that I get to do
therapeutic.
This. Yeah, exactly. And it's self-reflective as well. You know, sometimes you don't ask yourself these questions, so being asked makes you think about it. So
that's awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
And you know what I love actually, that even though you know us so well, I mean, Tracy is my first ever friend, and she has been through every single step of my life with me, ups and the downs. I think it's so beautiful that we still kind of today discover new things about ourselves. Like I think even in this discussion now,
I learned a lot myself. 100%. That's great. Honestly,
which is nice.
Guys, thank you for the time.
Thank you.
And thank you for being around for people to learn from you. It's super helpful.
We love you.
Love you guys.